Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, aside from having a terrible allergy attack, I am coming to you live because I am so excited to introduce you to Kim O'Hara. She is the founder of A Story Inside. She is an amazing book coach and so much more. And so today we are going to be talking about all the things that you need to know to really draw the story inside out and to publish a book that is going to make you so proud and that you'll be able to leverage for so much more. So without further ado, here she is. Hi, Kim.
Good morning. Happy hump day. I'm so sorry you're having allergies. That's awful. The worst.
It's okay. But thank you so much. So if I do have to sneeze, you'll know why.
I get it. I
Um,
get it. I'll be like, oh my God, it's COVID.
yeah, it's not. It's the Palo Verde trees everywhere. There's just yellow blooms falling all over everybody here in Phoenix. Okay, so let's start with the name of your company, which is A Story Inside. So what inspired you to call it that?
Well, what's interesting that you mentioned that is I am in the middle of a rebrand actually, and it's looking like we're not confirmed yet, but I think it's going to be Kim O'Hara Enterprises going forward. A Story Inside is what I started my company as 7 years ago. It's really emblematic of what I do with people. They have a story inside of them. They just don't know how to get it out. And a book is so elusive to so many people. I mean, where do you like even begin with writing a good book? And but what I've been, hearing is feedback from the clients that I have and the circles that I run in, including working with you, is that I am really the brand. I am the person that they come to as the insider in the industry and also the expert to help them get that story out. And so yeah, I'm making that bold rebranding this year.
Well, that's very exciting. So, but let's talk about how you can draw a story out from somebody because I don't, not everybody can do that. First of all, I
Right.
bet not everybody knows the story that they have to tell. I probably,
Right.
some people come to you and they're probably like, I want to write a book, but I don't know what. Or is it even like sometimes they think they want to write a book about X, but you're like, no, that's not what you should be writing. Tell us more.
It's a very collaborative, gentle effort. I mean, a lot of people will say that I'm a taskmaster and I keep them, on track, but I really do sink in intuitively into what I'm starting to hear week after week from my clients in terms of like the messaging that they're continuing to give. And then I'll start to say, you've been talking about this one area that I feel like that might be the area of your most power with your voice. And it seems like that's where you have the most content that you could talk about. Should we lean into that maybe more? And then the minute that they're willing, they realize that, I like to say a lot of people tend to go broad with their writing. They come with these broad concepts, right? And then when you start to dig into the broad concepts, you realize within there is so much more content of this unique life they've lived, whether it's memoir or even doing business. Like there's so many layers to what makes them unique to what they do and what they have to share in the world. And so it's definitely a very collaborative process.
So what does it look like when somebody works with you? Do they have to, give up their day job and just write a book?
Absolutely not. I work with people like you and I, type A, alpha, high achieving people that usually have, their idea of relaxing is organized relaxing. And so with that high achieving mentality, they usually either are running their own company, they work for a company in a high level position, or if they are someone that's entrepreneurial that does have that like more flexible schedule, they're also creating programs, or they're raising two children, or they're on the board of some charity, or they're always having some other endeavor going on. So a lot of it is figuring out when they're going to have the writing time, when they're going to be able to coach, and trying to get them to not just have the 3 hours they're going to just do it, in a very like kind of masculine way. I'm asking them to also like put in a couple hours of just like flex time, of thinking time, of like pondering time. Because a lot of with writing is we think we just sit down and we just pound at the keys. And that's true if you've been doing it for a really long time. I can sit down and write really fast. For people that are new, and most clients that come to me have never really been, they've never written in this way before. I always say build in like an hour or two where you could just be like, I've got nothing. And then from there comes some of your greatest ideas.
So what happens if somebody feels like they have writer's block?
I don't believe in writer's block. And most people that work professionally wouldn't sign up for writer's block. It's just another way to procrastinate and have a justification for not writing. And that goes to what I just said. Sitting quietly and staring at your computer screen and being in the writing space is not writer's block if you're not writing. It's processing, it's creating, it's allowing things to come up and allowing yourself to surrender to the uncomfortableness that you might not have all the answers for your book at that moment. Now, when I work with clients, I make sure they have a full outline before they start. So there's definitely a safety net and a life preserver. It's not like go find yourself this week. It's definitely like there's a format, but within the format I say stay open.
I love that because, especially for somebody who's type A and they feel like they have to hit these goalposts at all times, that sitting and pondering and thinking process, that's very uncomfortable, but also necessary.
Yes, it's very uncomfortable. And, I'm also an author and a writer. And so I have to often watch kind of what's evolving with my own writing. And so I'm very informed by what I do. And then I can bring those lessons to my clients. I'm a bona fide writer. I've been writing since I was 13 years old. And so I am in that space too. So it's not like I just decided that, oh, I'll be a book coach because that seems like a good gig. It's very much because I live the writer's life as well.
So what is the writer's life really like? Do
Oh,
you wake up every day and go, okay, I'm going to write for 2 hours and then I'm going to have lunch and then I'm going to do, like, what is it like?
no, it's me never writing when I'm supposed to and then yelling at my clients when they don't write. So it's very funny. I live in all the dualities of it. Like I said, I am a fast writer. I've gotten to a point after, 20 years of writing in movies and writing books and just being a writer. I've gotten very used to sitting down and getting the work done. What I find is interesting is that I am, currently writing a book about buying a house as a single woman in Los Angeles. And it's kind of an essay. A lot of the pieces are essays. And this is something I say to my clients. I say, go in and expect that you're going to have one writing voice and then be surprised and enchanted by the writing voice that you come up with. I've been writing fiction and a little bit of nonfiction most of my life, and now I'm suddenly an essayist. And that was really profound to realize like I'm an essayist. And as soon as I realized I was an essayist, I immediately got something published in a major journal. So it was very, very exciting. And so I always say to people, you've never written nonfiction before, but you could have like the greatest nonfiction voice of your life, or you've only written nonfiction and you started writing fiction and you realized you have a great fiction voice. That's the beauty of the writer's life is it's always evolving.
What do you say to your clients who come to you and say, I want to write a book, but I'm not a writer?
I say everybody's a writer. Everybody has a unique opportunity to write. Everybody has a learning curve to write. And I also say to them too, like, there are millions of people walking around all the time who have no desire to write a book. They just don't. Like you meet them. You're like, hey, you ever want to write a book? They're like, no, I never want to write a book. And I'm like, so if you're literally in your heart and your soul going, I want to write a book, the fact that you think you're a writer is just an obstacle. That you're not a writer is just an obstacle you've created for yourself. It's just another resistance point. It's another barrier to being afraid. You're basically afraid. You're afraid that people are going to not like you. You're afraid that your book's going to be a failure. You're afraid that, you're going to be like, people have the, craziest worries. They're going to be laughed off the stage, that their family is going to disown them all before they've even written the.
Yeah. Yeah, all the stories that we tell ourselves that really are based in nothing.
In nothing, in just what's in our heads. Like it's not in the present moment. It's not like, because if you know, you work with energy and the energy body and like synchronicity and like the magic that we can experience in life, like we're our own creators of of whatever we want to manifest and whatever we want to have happen. So to sit there and believe that all these things are going to happen, I mean, you're putting energy toward that. Put energy towards what you want with your book.
So, how long does it take to write a book that you can really be proud of?
8 months is about as long as I see in the way that I work with my clients. And then it's a year to actually take that book and have built a proper book platform for it,
Mhm.
and to know what your purpose and mission and vision is with that book, and to then build your list of agents or small press publishers that you want to go out to. You need to have an agent to go to a big five publisher, but you don't have an agent necessarily need an agent to go to a small press. But what you do need in both those scenarios is a book proposal. If you don't have a book proposal, I don't care if you're friends, best friends with Joe at, you know, Penguin, they're not going to look at it unless you have a book proposal. So that whole thing takes a year. And something that I've been adding recently that you and I were recently talking about, Melanie, is this whole getting your book platform going sooner,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of people, as you know, I send you authors, they'll come at like 8 months or 9 months when they're finished with the book. And I'm realizing, like, oh, if they could just gone to Melanie like at 4 months, right? And started building that social media presence, or started getting speaking gigs while they and work on the material. Like it's almost like a comedian, right? Who, you hear these famous comedians and they've got their big stadium shows, right? But they'll work little clubs in all these cities all over America and try out their material. Oh, that didn't get a laugh. Oh, that didn't get a laugh. They're not going to try out their material for the first time in the big stadium.
Nope.
So while you're writing the book, try out some of your stuff, try out some of your material in posts, get an article published, see what gets the most resonance while you're writing, because that can also help direct you to what's going to be a success in the book.
That is solid gold advice.
Solid gold advice, right?
It
And I've
really
been doing
is.
this for 7 years, and I was just now like, duh. So it's like, you know, it's like we're all learning, like, because everything's always changing. You're always like, there's so many moving parts to writing a book. And as a coach, I'm so focused on the good book. But recently I was like, because I do all these referrals, I was like, I really need to be 100% on board all the time with like the book platform and everything.
Mhm, and that makes sense. I mean, how in the past 7 years, how has the publishing industry changed?
Hybrid has become a lot more of a less of a, you know, oh, I went to hybrid. It's more of a positive,
Yeah.
because the road to traditional publishing is so long in terms of how long it takes an agent to get back to you and how long it takes like a small press to work with you. I'm very traditional publisher positive, but I'm just saying then it's a couple of years before they're going to put out your book. So I have a book coming out in 2023 and I signed on with them in 2021. So
Wow.
it takes a long time. So if you want to do something immediate, you can do self-publishing, and hybrid publishing is a little bit longer and you get that traditional experience. That's what I've seen change.
Mhm.
I think if you want to write a successful book and you want to put out a platform that's worthy, you're going to have a success. That I haven't seen change in the last 7 years.
Mhm, mhm. And, with I mean, the ubiquity of Amazon, I mean, I would say that you need to have your book on Amazon wherever you publish it.
Right.
Yeah, you say, would you agree to that? That
Yeah, I do. I think that you know, it's not it shouldn't necessarily be the big dream. Um you can want to, you know, have bigger, loftier goals with your book. It's not like, again, it's all what you make of it. Like you could have it on Amazon, and if that's your end product, promote the hell out of it. You know, do book signings, do like, interviews, like promote your Amazon author page, like figure out every trick and tool you can do within that space to make it work for you, right? And I think that's in anywhere that you go. Like another thing that I want to work with a lot of my clients on going into the future is creating podcasts with them and coming up with branding for those podcasts and like starting to take that content they're promoting in their book and starting to create it's very inexpensive to create a podcast. It's just incredibly time consuming. That's the only issue. So I've seen that change. Podcasting. I created my own podcast during the pandemic. A lot of authors and writers can get into the podcast space, and it's just another way to build an audience.
Yes, and that's really the bottom line, isn't it? It's if you could write the best book in the entire world, but if you don't have an audience that's excited to buy it, then it's just going to be that box of books collecting dust, and that is the biggest, saddest thing in the world.
It's sad.
It's really sad.
The box of books. It really is. But you know what? I mean, write a second book then and do better on the second book, right? Like a lot of people have more than one book in them. And your first book is really where you learn so much. It's sort of like having children, right? The first kid, you're like, oh my God, everything's so precious. And the second kid, they're like mouthing the railing at the zoo. You're like, right? Like you don't care anymore. So the second book, you're just know more and you're like less worried about the little things and more focused on the bigger, like the audience, like some of the bigger stuff where the first book, it's so precious.
Mm-hmm. But that, all that said, if you are ready to focus on the platform and growing your presence with the first book, then you should do that.
Yeah. I'm looking for people to come to me as clients that are swinging for the fence. I mean, like going for the gold. They understand that this is all in. And look, what you spend in the beginning or like working with someone like myself or working with someone like you, it's really worth it. You're going to end up spending it down the road anyway, and then you're going to be too late. So I always say like top heavy your budget, like come in and know that writing a book, a good book, a book that you want to put out there in a big way can be pricey, but it's worth the investment because it opens the doors to you for so much in your career, so much with your voice, so much with your platform, and it changes who you are.
How do you think so? Like the transformation, what kind of transformation do you see with your clients?
I just see people being like, oh my God, I'm like really good at this, or wow, my experiences have made me realize that I'm an expert in this and I could do like all these different things. And they're just bolder in other areas in their life too. Like they get a swagger about them. Like I've even seen it too. Like when I've put out, certain writings or certain books, it's sort of like you elevate yourself to like another level where you're embracing this like other part of your life, this like writer life. And it just adds this other layer of like sophistication and intellect and like savvy out into the world. It's really a powerful experience writing a book.
Absolutely. All right. So if somebody is ready to write their book, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way?
You can go to my website, which is astoryinside.com, although it'll soon be moving over to kimohara.com. But I think for now you can go to astoryinside.com, or they can just email me. Like I'm really accessible at kimohara@astoryinside.com. And myself or someone from my team will get back to people right away. And then we just set up a call. Like generally, I just want to know where people are at, and I want to meet them where they're at with their book journey. And so I think those are the best ways. Look at you. You've already popped it up on the screen. What are you doing, promotion or something? So that's the best way, I would say.
Okay. So you can go to astoryinside.com, or it was Kim at astoryinside.com.
Yeah, or Kim O'Hara at astoryinside.com.
Oh, Kim O'Hara.
Both will work.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
So they can follow me on Instagram. Instagram is A Story Inside, and also like you can private message me there as well.
Okay, perfect. All right, Kim, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
It was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Have a great day, everybody.